Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever I find you. Today I'm going to talk about a very important topic that I have never expressly talked about on this channel. It was a question that came in on a comment on another video, and it's going to be helpful for you if you're a projector who is determined to live like a healthy, well-functioning life and you want to use human design in that process. It'll also be helpful if you're somebody who is another human design type who is supporting projectors. So maybe as clients, maybe you have a good friend who is a projector who's sort of stumbling a little bit with some of the how do I live my design type questions. If we haven't met before, I'm Carolyn Southwell. I have been working with human design for more than 11 years. I am a projector. I have also worked with every human design type many, many times over those 11 years. So the question that was asked was actually asked, I'm going to link it up here. Actually, it's going to be on this side. The question was asked on the video, can projectors ever act without an invitation? So here on the channel, you're going to find a lot of resources about projectors and waiting for the invitation. Good to see you there in the comments. Hello. And to help you live in accordance with your human design as a projector, because there's so many misunderstandings about waiting for the invitation, when you have to wait, when do you not wait, what does it look like in all sorts of contexts. And I personally found as a projector that there were not really good quality resources on this. So, we make the thing we need, right? So the question that was asked was, would you say that projectors need to wait for the invitation when it comes to truth and confrontation? Said another way, do I need to wait for an invitation to have a difficult conversation? So what if a projector feels hurt, they said, by someone's actions, or wants to open up a topic for conversation to let the other person know how that person's actions has affected them? Would starting a conversation in such a case be the same as initiating? Okay, so if you are super, super new to human design, this might be a good video to save for a couple of months from now and come back to. If you have been playing with human design for a little while already, and you're really looking at the nuances of when to wait, when to initiate, etc. What I'm hoping that you know at this point as you watch this is that as a projector, there are certain times that we just need to do things. And it might look like, if we didn't have the language of human design, that it might look like initiating, right? We need invitations to open, to walk through new doors, to start new conversations with new people, or new kinds of conversations with people that we're already in relationship with. We need invitations to unlock a whole lot of new things. However, when you are already in an existing relationship of some kind, where hopefully you entered it correctly, but you're going to find out as we talk through this live that this is an exact time when you're going to find out how much this person really values you. It is appropriate and necessary for you, if you're going to take care of yourself, to express to the people you're already in relationship, personal, familial, romantic, professional, whatever. It is important that you feel brave enough and feel resourced enough to have those difficult conversations, this truth and confrontation idea. So somebody has hurt me, and I want to speak to my experience in here because this is going to be the most useful thing I can share here. When someone has done something that has hurt me in some way, they've triggered something, they've spoken to me in a way that feels very unkind, they've done something that maybe they just did it accidentally and they don't realize the impact of their actions, I am going to take some time to have a conversation with them. And I want to, for the person who's listening who asked this question, and for you who's tracking along with this question, I want you to take the focus off whether or not you need an invitation or you are initiating, because hopefully we've already answered that. I've already answered that so far. We're saying that you're already in an existing relationship, and there are certain things that we just need to do once we're inside of that relationship. And to have a really healthy relationship, is actually having difficult conversations sometimes. So let's say we've ticked that one, and we're going to park this idea of invitation versus initiating and come to the thing that I think is the most important for you to understand here. When I have practiced having difficult conversations with people that I'm in relationship with, I have noticed one of three things happen. And I expect that for you, as you practice this, you will notice one of these three things. The ideal, the most wonderful, is number one, when I have a conversation, I can think of a particular girlfriend that I've done this with, a couple of girlfriends actually, where I feel I have expressed that something they said caused me to have a particular reaction, caused me to feel hurt. And when I say it to them, they respond back with something that shows that they care about me and that they're willing to engage with this kind of conversation. And what this shows is that they really recognize and value me. These are our ideal relationships to be in as projectors. It would ideally, our whole life would be filled with friends and family and co-workers and people that we're working with professionally, where number one is what happens. We have our difficult conversation. The other person is able to, has the capacity, has the emotional capacity, the emotional intelligence to be able to go, wow, sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you, and is willing to kind of work through and flesh it out with you and like come to a resolution and repair that damage. And maybe in that conversation, they're willing to say, hey, can we also talk about like how I receive this? It's not necessarily the other person's the bad guy, you're the good guy, and you just like, sometimes it'll be, hey, there's a bit that I, as the person starting this conversation, need to take responsibility for too. But the person shows that they care about me, you, and that they have the capacity, the emotional intelligence to have that conversation. That's ideal. That's what we want. So most of the time in a lot of our relationships, that may not be the case. So situation number two that I have seen a lot, and this happens predominantly with my family, is where I will start that conversation, and to some degree, the person, usually family, and I allow, we'll talk about that more in a minute, but the way that it plays out is that I express how I'm feeling, and then what I notice is that they will, on some level, minimize or dismiss or try to shy away from the conversation. But there's something in their tone of voice or their body language or something they say that shows me that they still care about me, but they don't have the capacity to have this conversation. The truth and confrontation is too difficult because they haven't done the depth of emotional work to be able to have this kind of difficult conversation. Now, the reason I say this mostly shows up for me with family is because I don't tend to stay friends very long with people who don't meet the requirements of number one. If they can't have a difficult conversation and flesh things out and work things through with me, they're not who I'm going to choose to have as friends. But I do allow that from family because family fit in a different bucket. Family are here to teach us different lessons than friends. Family are here to trigger all our stuff. And so it is a good opportunity for me to remember, hey, they can't hold space for me. That doesn't mean they don't care for me. That doesn't mean that they're not dismissing me because my feelings are not important. They're dismissing me because they can't handle that conversation, or they can't handle that conversation right now. And then my job is to go and work on and heal that stuff, right? That's still held within my system that allowed that dynamic to play out in the first place. So we'll talk some more about how to do that. By the way, if you're finding this video helpful, do give it a thumbs up because that helps more people find it in the YouTube land. And this can go out to more people. Now, number three, and this is really important. So remember, we're talking about this in the context of when you have this conversation with people, one of three things is going to happen, and it's going to show you how safe that person is to be in relationship with, and how much you might want to continue that relationship with that person. So we've talked about one, which is the ideal. Two is what I experience often with family members, not all the time, but often. And then number three is a situation that ideally we will, if possible, walk away from. And that is when you go to have a difficult conversation and you go to share your truth about how someone's actions or words made you feel, like what happened in that interaction, and the person dismisses, minimizes, even ridicules you, does some kind of suppressing, pushing. There's more words, but I think you get me. They are negating. That's the word I want. They are negating and pretending that how you feel doesn't matter, and that you shouldn't feel that way. And there is nothing, unlike the category of number two, there is nothing in their body language or their tone of voice or their actions or their words that show you that even though they're doing this, they still care about you. If you are in a relationship with someone who doesn't demonstrate care for you, and also is regularly criticizing, dismissing, negating, not making space for how you feel, this is not a safe person for you to be in relationship with. Now, there are any number of ways that could be playing out in your life. You know, we might have 1,000+ people watch this on YouTube over time, and every single one of you will have different kinds of relationships. What I want you to know is this is all what we call tappable issues. And which is why I am doing so much work these days in helping people decondition, because you can know everything about your human design chart and you might still trip over these issues. I have seen projectors who are 20, 25, 30 years into their human design experiment who are still having the same unhealthy relationships where they're not seen and recognized, even though they know an incredible amount about human design, more than I will ever know. It is insane how much they know, and yet they're struggling to live it. So next week, I have a group tapping class where I'll teach you trauma-informed tapping. You can come along to that if you like. I have put a link in the video description. That is a link to the email list, and I notify the list when I've got upcoming classes. The one for next week, if you want details for that, make sure you jump on the list today. You'll get a welcome email, and if you reply to that and say, Carolyn, can I have the link for next week? I'll send you the link so you can jump in, because there's still a couple of spots. And if you know that you would like to learn how to shift the whole point, if you're new to my work with tapping, I have another video, actually, I'll make sure I put it up after this live, about how tapping helps with the deconditioning process, right? So I did answered that very good question. Thank you very much. On that particular question, because that was another great question that was asked. Thank you. And what the tapping is doing is it is actually helping you to shift these patterns. So then you no longer tolerate people who behave like category 3. You just shift them out of your life because you deserve better. You deserve better. You deserve to be in relationship with people who care about you and who are safe to be in relationship with. And ideally, we want to move as much as possible. That's why I do so much tapping on my stuff with family, because I want to move people as much as possible from a category 2 to a category 1, right? As much as possible, I want for you to have as many relationships that match that category 1, because we have to have difficult conversations. Life is going to life. And we need to be able to flesh things out with people. And the more safe and the more held and the more cherished and the more seen you can feel with people when you have those conversations, the higher the quality of your life will be. If you have further questions about anything related to human design or tapping or the intersection of the two, you are welcome to ask questions below any of these videos in a comment. If it's something of a specific nature, then I need to answer it in a coaching question, in a coaching session, and you'll be able to find links for that below many of these videos. And if it's of a general nature, like the person who asked this question, then I will have a look at it. And if I haven't answered it previously, then I'll add it to the list to answer in one of these lives. And I hope you have a great day.